All right, today we're going to be cleaning and rebuilding carburetors on a KZ400 motorcycle. It's a dual carburetor setup. First thing we're going to do is kind of go over a couple things here. We've got a Keihin carburetor. There is your model number here for this carburetor. We've got your choke assembly here. Now to choke your motorcycle, you're going to lift this choke up, and that's going to close these butterflies here. You can see those close when you lift that choke up. We've got your idle here, your idle adjust, and I'll show you how that works here in a bit. And we've got your throttle cable that comes down into these two spots here. One's a pull, one's a push. And what that is doing is opening these butterflies up on this side of your carburetor. If you turn these, if you shut your choke there, shut it off, you can see your slides down in there. When you blow compressed air down into these, those slides should come up. And I'll kind of just, you can see it there, they go up. That means your diaphragm and these up top here is working. So these slides are gonna go up, these butterflies open, air flowing through here, it's gonna lift those slides. Your idle adjust is essentially just pulling that throttle, these butterflies open even more, which is the same thing as pulling the throttle a little bit more. So you wanna make sure that you have your idle adjusted when your motorcycle is warmed up and the temperatures you're going to be riding in the most. All right, we're just going to pull one carburetor apart here because it's almost the exact same carburetor inside on either side. So first thing we're going to do is pull this bowl here. We've got 4 Phillips screws around the outside. We've got your drain here, and that is a flat screw that you open up here. And what that does is allow fuel to pour out this bottom nipple here. This bottom nipple, and you should have a drain hose going to the bottom of your motor, underneath of your motor, so that you're not draining fuel onto a hot motor or will be hot soon. So you can just break that open there, fuel will drain out here. That's if you're draining your carburetor for the year. If you've got bad fuel in it or water in your fuel, you can open this up here and drain it. And if your carburetor is dirty, you won't be able to just simply open that up and clean it out. That is how you drain fuel. It won't clean debris out of there. So we've got the 4 Phillips screws here. And these are screws going into aluminum carburetor. So there's no reason to torque these down hard going back together. If you're doing that, all you are is making problems for the next guy. So 4 screws, don't have to be very tight. Pull off there, there's your bowl on one carburetor. We've got your float here, we've got your needle and seat here. We've got a pin that runs through there right here, and that keeps your pin in. We've got your main jet here, and this needle that you see right there runs down into your main jet port. So you can buy different needles depending on your riding conditions, performance done to the motorcycle. You can adjust that needle. You can also adjust any one of these jets. And under this rubber cap here is your idle jet right there. That's going to be the smallest jet of the 3. When you're going to pull this out, make sure that your screwdriver is held firmly down as you turn it out. If your screwdriver isn't quite in that groove, it will strip that screw out. You'll have to end up drilling it out or replacing that carburetor. So again, these are brass, same thing. They don't have to be torqued down very hard, but also your carburetor is flipped up, so you don't want these to rattle loose. You want to make sure they're snug, but you don't need to over tighten them. So to clean a carburetor, pull all 3 of these jets out, hold it up to light, make sure you can see all the way through it. If you can't, you want to get a jet cleaner, clean it out, carb cleaner, or compressed air, or all 3. So gum out is what I like to use the best, and spray that into the jet. Take it, compressed air, clean it out that way. You also want to blow in this area here, kind of just tip that carburetor up. Our pilot jet's going to come out here, and blow through it like that there. And that'll clean out those ports. Here's your pilot jet again. That's the smallest of the jets, and that's what's used starting the motorcycle. So if this is plugged up, your motorcycle is going to be extremely hard to start or not start at all. This is the most common problem, especially for the guys that are leaving their bike sit through the winter. You want to run something stable or something along those lines to try to preserve the fuel in these carburetors. But sometimes, a lot of times, that doesn't even do the trick. So going back together, you want to make sure again that you're in the groove for that jet when you tighten it down. And again, you don't need to over tighten it. So we've got your secondary jet here. That's your secondary jet here. And then your main jet here. And this is actually your main jet and your main jet holder. So this main jet is fairly small, about the same size as this secondary jet here, but it runs down into this holder. A lot of times these come out together. You can separate the two, about a 10mm wrench here with a flat screwdriver here, and you can take them out separately. I always just pull them out because it's a good idea to clean that main jet holder at the same time. So that is your jets. Next thing we're going to do is pull your needle and seat. So what we do here, just kind of bump that pin out and grab the, push the pin all the way through. And these posts are aluminum here, both these posts. So you'll make sure if you're tapping on this, any at all, you want to make sure you don't damage these posts. They break off very easily. So we've got your float here, we've got your pin here, and we've got your needle here and your seat here. A lot of times these get grooved. They'll break, the rubber tips will break off, or the seat here will get grooved as well, causing fuel to just continue to drain into your bowl. And that is when fuel will come up out of this tab here, go down through here, and drain below your carburetor onto your motor. So you want to make sure that if fuel is continuing to drain into your carburetor, or you put it on its side stand and fuel continues to drip, this is what your problem is. You can adjust these, and I'll do that quick here for you. If you've got just a small drip when your bike's on the side stand, you can slightly adjust this down. That's causing that fuel to, it's causing your needle to sit farther into your seat there. Going back together, it doesn't matter which way you turn this, it's both the same. Set it in there, and then put the pin through. You want to make sure that pin is pretty much centered there, otherwise your bowl is not going to go on like it should. So don't forget your rubber cap over your pilot jet. Make sure this O-ring is good in here. This is a common problem. This a lot of times is why carburetors leak, is this O-ring here. If you spray Carb Clean on there and it expands, set it out in the sun, let it dry for a while, and it'll compress back down to where it needs to be. But you want to make sure that's seated in there completely before putting that bowl back on. Otherwise you'll have problems. Put the 4 Phillips screws back in there. Make sure it's seated completely down. And I like to get all 4 started before I start snugging them up. Next thing we're going to do is pull this top cap off here, and we'll see that rubber diaphragm in there. And this is a common problem too, guys, putting these back together. Won't get them seated properly and they'll rip that diaphragm. There's your diaphragm there. That's a rubber diaphragm. A lot of times those will get dry, get damaged, crack, and then they won't function properly. If you're going back together with this, be really careful If you're pulling this all the way out, not to rip it, especially if it's dry at all. I don't even like to pull them out if I don't need to, but you can. And that one's really stuck in there. These are very expensive to buy. And for these older models, sometimes you can't even get them. Well, I'm not going to pull that out there because I don't want to damage it, but just want to make sure your needle goes completely down in there. Spring you can pull out and you can see the needle down in there. So that is a carburetor on a Kawasaki KZ400.